My wife did not expect that. The day she returned from the hospital with her first love, Sergio, she would receive divorce papers already signed by me. Seeing this, she seemed to go mad, rushing straight into the room, eagerly searching the bookcase for the divorce report. But when the cabinet door opened, it was empty inside. In that moment, her eyes widened, filled with horror. In the previous life, on the day Ariana was awarded her commendation, in front of television cameras and millions of people nationwide, she emotionally said, "If it weren't for Sergio, I would have lost my life in that sea storm years ago. He is the most important person in my life." That statement was nothing less than a knife plunged straight into my heart. Her legitimate husband. I was scorned, forgotten. Simply because for 20 long years I endured in the rear. Taking care of her parents, raising our daughter, working myself to exhaustion. And even when I was barely clinging to life on a hospital bed, I still didn't receive a word of thanks from her mouth. Our daughter's words became the final fatal blow dealt to me. "Dad, look, Mom and Uncle Sergio are so compatible. You should just make room for him soon." The anger made my heart ache. And in ultimate regret, I took my last breath. When I opened my eyes, I had returned right to the evening, before Ariana was set to depart for her medical mission. In this life, I don't want to be the nameless man in the rear anymore. I want to pursue my own dream of the sky. At the Pilot Selection Center of Military Region 1, the commander looked at me with a serious expression. "Mr. David, congratulations on passing the test and being officially selected as an Air Force pilot for our country. But remember, being a pilot is no joke. Even after being selected, you will still undergo long periods of arduous training. Have you truly thought this through?" I looked at him, my eyes resolute. "Commander, reporting. My father, before he sacrificed himself, was one of the country's first combat pilots. A Martinez will absolutely never give up halfway." The commander nodded slightly, his eyes showing some admiration. "Very good, that spirit is commendable. But," he paused, as if remembering something, "in 15 days, your batch of pilots will be sent for military training. And at that time, Miss Ariana will be going to the Southern Sea Defense Line. The two of you will have to be apart. Does she agree to this?" I was silent for a moment, then gave a faint smile. "She will surely want me to go." In the previous life, when given a chance to choose only one person to accompany her, Ariana chose Sergio without hesitation. Not me. 20 years later, she only returned home twice. Once when our daughter turned 18. And the second time was when she was awarded the commendation for her contribution. I once thought I shouldered the entire family so she could dedicate herself with peace of mind. Facing the sea wind, sickness, and loneliness alone for 20 years. At least, during that commendation ceremony, she would mention me once. But no. In Ariana's eyes at that time, there was only Sergio, completely forgetting the husband who sacrificed his entire life for her. Even my daughter, the child I raised as both father and mother from a young age, said that Ariana and Sergio were better suited. She hated me, believing I was only taking up space. It was then I realized how pathetic and ridiculous I was. For her, I abandoned my youthful dream and worked hard for this family my whole life, only to be repaid with my wife's indifference and my daughter's disgust. Fortunately, fate gave me a chance to start over. In this life, I will be the eagle soaring through the sky, living for myself, instead of waiting for someone who will never look back. After signing the papers, I pedaled my old bicycle towards the military barracks. Turning the corner, I ran into 3 people approaching. Ariana, Sergio, and my daughter, Diana. Sergio and Ariana were each holding one of the child's hands. Diana chattered merrily. Sergio smiled and patted her head. And Ariana looked at them with gentle eyes, the corners of her mouth slightly curved, looking exactly like a happy family. When her eyes met mine, her face immediately darkened. "Where are you going? Why did you leave Diana alone with her IV drip at the hospital? She's only 6 years old." Diana, who was happily talking to Sergio, immediately stopped, huffed coldly, and turned her face away. I clenched my fist, swallowing the bitterness in my heart. She wouldn't let me stay. She said she only needed Dr. Sergio by her side. It was the same in the previous life. Before she left, Diana already really liked Sergio. I always thought it was just because he knew how to play with children. But now I understand. What the child wanted was for Sergio to become her father. In this life, she won't have to wait until I die anymore. In just 15 days, that wish will come true. Ariana heard what I said, but her expression didn't soften at all. Instead, she frowned. What kind of father are you? A total failure. If you have free time, spend more of it caring for your child. Diana immediately chimed in. That's right, Mom, Dad never cares about me. Hearing the mother and daughter speak like that, my heart twisted, and the corner of my mouth curved into a bitter smile. Since Diana was born, Ariana was always busy with her medical missions. And only I took care of the child every step of the way. When she was sick, I stayed up all night by her bed. When it was her birthday, I made the cake with my own hands. When she was picky with food, I found every way to cook new dishes for her to eat. Every single thing contained all my love and dedication. Yet in the eyes of the mother and daughter, I was a failed father. I smiled faintly. Believe whatever you want. In 15 days, I will be leaving here. There's no need to argue anymore. Ariana was about to flare up, when Sergio quickly grabbed her hand and said gently, Ariana, it's my fault. Don't blame him anymore. Immediately, the fire of anger in her eyes vanished without a trace. Ariana turned to comfort him softly. No, it's not your fault. You even helped me take care of my child. I should be thanking you. Diana also rushed into Sergio's arms and whispered, Uncle Sergio, I'm serious. My teacher said children shouldn't lie. I absolutely would never lie to anyone. It's because Dad isn't good. And you are the most wonderful person in the world. Ariana's face suddenly darkened. She glanced at me, then turned and walked straight in the opposite direction. Sergio lowered his head and said, Let Diana and me take you home. Diana excitedly grabbed both their hands, cheering, Let's go. I stood still in place, watching their three figures merge into the twilight, with only a bitter taste spreading in my heart. That was the wife and daughter I had dedicated my entire life in the previous life to loving and protecting. If they hated me this much, then in this life, I will let go. Their figures gradually disappeared around the bend. I also wheeled my old bicycle, turned onto a different road, and rode straight to the marriage registration office. Hello, sir. I would like to submit a divorce application. Divorce was extremely rare at this time. The officer cross-checked the papers, repeatedly confirming, until he saw my resolute gaze, and slowly said, This divorce application only requires both parties' signatures, and the procedure can be completed. I carefully folded the application and returned to the barracks. Ariana and Diana hadn't returned yet. I went into the kitchen, cooked a simple meal for myself, ate quickly, then washed the dishes. Just as I finished washing, the mother and daughter returned. Looking at the empty table, Ariana habitually asked, You haven't cooked dinner for us yet? I glanced at Diana's full belly and calmly replied, Didn't the two of you already eat at Dr. Sergio's house? Up until now, the mother and daughter were both very picky eaters, rarely agreeing to eat even when invited by others. Therefore, to please their palate, I had spent a lot of time experimenting, cooking over and over until it suited their taste. So no matter how late they returned, I always had 3 servings of food ready and waiting. But now it was different. At Sergio's house, they ate heartily as if they had never been picky. It makes sense. The cook was the person in their heart. How could the food not taste delicious? Ariana cleared her throat, awkwardly explaining, It was difficult for us to refuse Dr. Sergio's invitation. So we just stayed and ate a little. Diana lightly patted her round belly, whispering, Uncle Sergio cooks so well. I wish I could eat his food every day. My movement paused. A deep weariness arose, enveloping my entire body. I quickly tidied the kitchen, then hastily showered, lay down on the bed, and closed my eyes, intending to sleep. But right then, my neck was pulled into an embrace. I have something I want to discuss with you. Ariana's voice sounded next to my ear, making me instantly sober. Before I could open my mouth, She continued. Next month I will be going to the Caribbean island for a medical mission. Military medical regulations only allow one person to be brought along. And I want to take Dr. Sergio with me. Since Diana is still young, she's not counted as a full personnel quota. So I will bring her along too. You stay here and look after my parents for me. And I will come back when I'm settled. My nose stung. My hand involuntarily clenched. She called it discussion. But in reality, it was just an order. In the previous life, Ariana had also said these exact words. At that time, I was naive enough to believe. She chose Sergio only because there was only one doctor on the island. And she wanted him to share the burden of caring for the soldiers. At that time, I agonized for a long time. And finally agreed. With only one condition. To leave Diana with me. That island was poor. Life was tough. And I was afraid my daughter would suffer with her mother. Ariana couldn't sway me. And reluctantly agreed. Promising to return to pick up the two of us. But that promise lasted an entire lifetime. In the end, even my daughter resented me. For preventing their family of 3 from reuniting. Thinking back now, if the island lacked a doctor, she could have requested one from her superiors. There was no need to use her military quota to take Sergio along. In reality, it was simply because she couldn't bear to leave him. And wanted to take her daughter too. So the 3 of them could live together. The happy family she desired. As for me, in the previous life, I was foolish enough not to realize. My chest felt heavy. As if a rock was pressing down on it. I gently removed her hand. Maintaining a certain distance, and softly replied, "Okay." Ariana was momentarily stunned. Not expecting me to agree so quickly. Her eyes became complicated, and she rarely spoke in a softer tone. "Don't worry. I will come back to pick you up. At that time, we will be reunited. A family of 3 living together." I pretended not to hear. Just closing my eyes. And quietly turning my back. The next morning, when I woke up, Ariana was already in the study room. I finished breakfast. Took out the divorce application. Looking at the bright red seal on the paper. A vague feeling suddenly rose in my heart. Just then, Diana jumped off her chair. Ran up to me, curiously reading the words on the paper. "Divorce? Dad, what is divorce?" I was silent for a moment. Then slowly replied. "Divorce is when 2 people no longer live together." The child's eyes immediately lit up. And she happily cheered. "Then hurry up and divorce Mom." That innocent, childish voice was like a blade piercing straight through my heart. Draining all my strength. It turned out, for a long time, Diana had wished for her mother and me to separate. After a long while, I finally asked in a choked voice. "If Mom and Dad split up, who will you choose to live with?" Without hesitation, the child immediately answered. "With Mom, of course. I also want Uncle Sergio to live with us." The bright, eager look in her eyes was like a needle piercing my sight, making my eyes sting. This was the daughter I had poured all my effort into raising for 6 years. And just as Ariana once said, I truly was a failed father. Diana rolled her eyes and quickly snatched the application from my hand. "Mom just needs to sign this to get a divorce, right?" My throat was constricted. I couldn't say a word. Only able to nod slightly. The child cheered happily and scurried towards the study room. "I'm going to find Mom to sign right now." I smiled bitterly. It turned out, the child truly wished to leave me that much. Just then, a knock sounded on the door. I went out to open it and was surprised to see Sergio standing outside. He saw my red eyes. His voice slightly hesitant. "David, did Ariana tell you already? She wants to use her military quota for me. You're not happy about it?" "David, Ariana is also doing this out of necessity. There absolutely must be 2 doctors on the island. You don't want to see her ill and having no one to treat her. Do you?" Although Sergio's mouth spoke comfort, his eyes concealed a flash of self-satisfaction, inadvertently revealing his true nature. He was clearly boasting about his special position in Ariana's heart, implicitly suggesting that a husband like me was utterly useless. But I had long made up my mind that in this life, I would not continue to be entangled with Ariana. I no longer cared about that military quota spot. At that moment, Hearing Sergio's voice, Ariana and Diana walked out from the study room. Diana rushed into his arms, hugging him tightly, refusing to let go. Ariana stood beside them, the corner of her mouth slightly curved, looking at the two of them with gentle warmth. This child really likes Uncle Sergio. Sergio chuckled, stroking Diana's head. I like Diana too. Faced with that warm scene, I blinked slightly, forcing the anger back down, and calmly said, I'm going to the department store to buy a few things. Before leaving, I wanted to purchase some necessities for my life in this existence. But before I could step out the door, Sergio smilingly grabbed my shoulder. David, I came to see Ariana and Diana today. And I was also planning to go out to buy a few things. There are no places to buy necessities on the island, so we have to prepare in advance. Let's go together, it'll be convenient to get your input. Before I could refuse, he pulled me out the door. Helplessly, I could only accompany the three of them to the department store. Once there, Sergio held Diana's hand, skillfully selecting supplies. Ariana walked closely behind, not leaving his side for a single step. Just like a virtuous wife and good mother protecting her husband and child. I quietly withdrew my gaze, turning to another direction to pick out the items I needed. As I passed a newsstand, an Air Force recruitment poster caught my eye. 8 large characters were printed on it. Protect the blue sky, fulfill your youth. My chest suddenly swelled with intense emotion. Fortunately, this time, I had been successfully selected. Finally, I could make up for the regrets of the previous life. Why are you looking at that recruitment poster? Do you still want to apply? Ariana's voice, deep and low, sounded behind me. I didn't have time to react. Only unconsciously nodding. She stared at me for a long time, then said indifferently, You don't know anything about airplanes. How could you be selected? I advise you not to waste your effort. Just stay home and wait for me to return and pick you up. Diana chimed in too, her voice soft but acrid. Dad only knows how to cook and do laundry every day. He has no skills at all. He can't possibly become a pilot. Uncle Sergio is still better. He's a doctor who saves lives, too. Although she spoke softly, Ariana and I heard every word clearly. Ariana merely glanced at her daughter, without refuting her at all. I looked at the mother and daughter. Their faces identical, wearing the same expression of disgust. My heart ached, chilled to the core. Clearly, before we got married, I had told her. My father was one of the nation's first pilots. I've been trained to fly since I was young. My physique and reflexes are far superior to the average person. Indeed, 5 years ago, I had participated in the Air Force selection and was successfully chosen. But at that time Diana was only 1 year old. I worried about her and had to give up the opportunity. I had told Ariana and Diana about this. Yet they didn't remember a single bit. Could it be that they never considered me someone worth remembering? I wanted to tell them that I had already been selected. But I was afraid Ariana would find out and try to stop me. So I swallowed the words. I just replied calmly. I was only looking at it. Ariana still found it strange. Because I usually only focused on household matters, never caring about military news. But before she could think more, she was interrupted by Sergio's call. Diana immediately pulled her mother's hand, running quickly towards him. I gave a faint, self-deprecating smile. Wait until I leave. Then they will know. I was never just the man lingering in the kitchen. After leaving the department store, Ariana and Diana walked with Sergio to see him home. I carried the bags and quietly followed. Once home, exhausted, I went to bed early. In the middle of the night, an argument from the neighboring house woke me up. You're planning to abandon me and our child here? And run away by yourself? No way, I don't agree. I didn't mean that. I'm just afraid the conditions there will be harsh. And you and our child won't be able to bear it. I just want the two of you to stay behind and live more comfortably. No need. Wherever you go, my child and I go. Otherwise, you're not going either. The sound of objects crashing, the sound of weeping. Ariana beside me also turned over. Having been woken up, she sighed softly. Since they are husband and wife, why must they part ways? If they are separated, what's the point of being married? What Jose is doing is wrong. My chest twinged. So she did understand. A husband and wife should not be separated. Yet in the previous life, she was the one who chose to take Sergio away, leaving me behind with our daughter in the military housing complex. So in her heart, was Sergio the husband, and I just a housekeeper, looking after the child and caring for her parents? The thought made me clench my fists, my voice hoarse in the darkness. And what about you, Ariana? Why did you leave me behind in this housing complex? We are husband and wife too. How is what you're doing any different from Jose? Or in your eyes, was I never truly your husband? That question, I had buried in my heart for 2 lifetimes. And finally managed to speak out. But Ariana only replied coldly. I already told you, I will come back to pick you up. I thought you understood my difficulties. I didn't expect you to be so petty. I didn't say anything more. I had heard her say the exact same thing in the previous life. But what was the result? Ariana never came back, only staying with Sergio until the end of her life. Who would believe it if I told them? And I, after 2 lifetimes, finally had to admit, she never loved me. I closed my eyes, not uttering another word. That night, 2 people lay in the same bed, but each had a different dream. The next morning, I woke up, and Ariana had already left for work at her unit. After feeding Diana breakfast, I prepared to take her to school. Just as I stepped out the door, Diana pulled a piece of paper out of her bag and handed it to me. Dad, what is this? I took it, opening it. It was the divorce application. At the bottom was a familiar line of signature. The handwriting soft and delicate. It was Ariana's signature. The signature, Ariana, was clearly written on the paper. Diana looked up proudly. I told Mom to sign it. Now the 2 of you can get a divorce. This signed divorce application was what I had been waiting for since I came back to life. And yet, she was, after all, the woman I had loved for an entire lifetime. Seeing her strong handwriting on the application, my heart ached as if being stabbed by a knife. I looked at it for a long time, then carefully folded it, my voice hoarse, carrying a hint of exhaustion. All right, Dad will find time to finalize the divorce. Diana cheered joyfully, skipping ahead. When she neared the school gate, she stopped, turning back to say, Dad, I can go in myself. You can go home now. I looked around, the school wasn't far. So I nodded in agreement. Only after seeing her safely inside the gate did I turn to leave. Back home, I began organizing documents to prepare for the upcoming mission. Then cleared out belongings that I couldn't take with me. I knew that as soon as I left, Sergio would move in here shortly after. If that was the case, I'd rather clean it up myself than be shamefully evicted by someone else. After several rounds of cleaning, the house was finally empty. I brushed the dust off myself, intending to go shower. Just then, the neighbor Lopez saw me and asked in surprise, Hey, David, why are you still home? The school is hosting Parents' Day today. All the parents are gone. I was stunned. Ariana didn't say anything. Lopez shook his head. You don't know? Little Diana is still at school. I had never heard of a Parents' Day in the previous life either. So I just thought the child was young and forgot to mention it. I quickly thanked him and rushed to the school. As soon as I reached the gate, the guard stopped me. Which student's parent are you? I scanned the crowd for Diana's figure. And then, I saw her. The child was holding the hand of a familiar man, Sergio. I was instantly speechless. The shout in my throat choked back. Diana was listening to her classmates introduce their parents. She smiled innocently, gripping Sergio's hand tightly. Then proudly said, This is my dad. Dad is a doctor. He's amazing. In that moment, all surrounding sounds seemed to vanish. Only that sentence echoed in my mind. This is my dad. I stood far away watching the child, as if she were showing off a treasure, pulling Sergio's hand to introduce him to every classmate. My heart felt shattered, the cold wind stinging my soul. Ariana and I weren't even officially divorced. Yet Diana was calling him Dad so naturally. Not long after, Ariana also appeared. She stood on the left, Sergio on the right, the 3 of them hand in hand, their smiles radiant like a perfect family. I finally understood why, in the previous life, until my death, I never knew about Parents' Day. It turned out, she and the child had secretly planned for Sergio to play the role of the father, attending in my place. I recalled the scene before my death in the previous life. Diana silently watched TV, looking at the affectionate couple on the screen, without bothering to glance at her dying father next to her. Thinking back now, during those years on the island, Ariana and Sergio must have secretly kept in touch. And perhaps Diana had long considered him her real father. I couldn't bear it anymore and turned to leave. The cold wind lashed past. I went to the marriage registration bureau, took out the divorce application, and signed my name on the remaining section. "Sir, I have finished signing. Please help me complete the procedure." Not long after, the divorce certificate was handed directly to me. Holding it, I truly felt clearly. From now on, I and the mother and daughter were completely unrelated to each other. In the following days, I began physical training again, preparing for the upcoming military mission. Since Diana's birth, I had exercised less, so I had to work hard to restore my old form. Ariana was busy handing over her duties before leaving for the Caribbean, and there was no one to watch our daughter on weekends. So I had to bring Diana along to the training field, bringing water and snacks for her to sit and play in a corner. That day, Sergio happened to walk past. As soon as Diana saw him, she ran over and hugged him tightly, whining, "Uncle Sergio, play with me. Dad always leaves me alone, it's so boring." I clenched my fists. That bright smile on the child's face, I hadn't seen it for a long time. Sergio stroked her head, glancing at me, a hint of arrogance flashing in his eyes. "We have to ask your dad first." I took a deep breath and forced a smile. "Go play with Uncle Sergio. But don't go far, be careful. After all, the child will live with him eventually." Perhaps I had no right to stop them. He smiled softly, taking Diana's hand and walking away, the child trotting happily behind. I watched them, wanting to call them back, but finally just silently bowed my head, continuing my training. Less than 10 minutes later, a shrill scream rang out. It was Diana's voice. I immediately ran over. The sight before me was the child sprawled on the ground, blood flowing from her forehead, bright red. Sergio frantically took out gauze from his doctor's bag, but the blood still seeped through incessantly. I couldn't think of anything else. Picking up the child and running straight to the medical station. After more than an hour of stitches, the bleeding finally stopped. When I was sure the child was safe, I turned to Sergio, my voice trembling with anger. "Why did Diana fall like this? You are a doctor, with a wound that big. Why didn't you immediately take her to the hospital? If I hadn't been nearby and rushed over in time, she would have lost too much blood." Sergio was still in shock, but instinctively, he immediately retorted, "How was I supposed to know children are that mischievous? I was just momentarily careless. And she jumped down from the steps and fell. Besides, I'm not a surgeon. Not reacting immediately is also normal." A surge of anger flared up in my chest. Clearly, Sergio was making excuses. Not long after, Ariana received the news and rushed to the medical station. She burst into the ward, saw her daughter lying on the bed, her head completely wrapped in white bandages, and her eyes immediately blazed with two flames of anger. "Diana, how did you get hurt like this?" Sergio avoided her gaze, while I suppressed my anger, intending to tell the truth. But right at that moment, the child's weak voice sounded from the hospital bed. "Mom, it was Dad who took me out. That's why I got hurt." I froze on the spot. It was clearly Sergio who took her. It was clearly his negligence that caused her to fall. Yet the child placed all the blame on me. I asked in a trembling voice, "Diana, say that again. Who exactly caused your injury?" The child whimpered, tears streaming down. "It was Dad. If it weren't for Dad, I wouldn't have fallen. I fell, and Dad wouldn't take me to the hospital. It was Uncle Sergio who carried me here." I listened to every word, feeling needles stabbing my chest. The pain was suffocating. The daughter I had raised for 6 long years was now stepping forward to falsely accuse me. I knew I had resolved to cut ties with the mother and daughter, but she was still my own flesh and blood. Seeing my daughter injured, how could I not feel pain? Yet she repeatedly stabbed my heart, making a heart already full of wounds tear open a few more times. Ariana grabbed my wrist tightly, dragged me out of the ward, walked to an empty hallway, and forcefully flung my hand away. Her temple throbbed incessantly, her voice carrying rolling fire of anger. David, how exactly are you taking care of our child? You don't even need to work. You only have to worry about the child. Yet you let her get injured so severely. And didn't even immediately take her to the hospital. I seriously doubt if you are her biological father. Otherwise, how could you be so cruel? Those words were like a cold knife, severing the last bit of lingering affection in my heart. For the mother and daughter. I said softly. Fine. From now on, I won't be her father anymore. That position is for Dr. Sergio. Your husband's position is also left to him. Ariana's eyes met mine. They were only filled with dead silence. She subtly frowned. But thinking of the wound on her daughter's forehead, her heart hardened again. She thought I was just angry, speaking in the heat of the moment. After all, I always loved the child so much. How could I truly abandon her? However, this time, I was no longer angry, but desperate. She continued, her voice cold. This has nothing to do with Dr. Sergio. He kindly took the child to the hospital. And you are slandering him, truly ungrateful. I laughed, only emptiness remaining in my eyes. Don't you want him to be Diana's father? That way you and he can be together openly and honestly. Ariana was so angry she punched the wall hard. Her expression dark. There has never been anything between Sergio and me. Stop talking nonsense. We are innocent. I only found it amusing. If they were truly innocent, why did she take him to the island, leaving me here for 20 years? If they were truly innocent, why, when she was awarded the commendation, did she only thank him? If they were truly innocent, why did my daughter chase me away, to make room for him? I didn't want to argue anymore. I only had 6 more days until I left. I could endure it. I turned around, left the medical station, and didn't look back. In the days that followed, I both packed for the trip and continued my physical training. I didn't see Ariana again, nor did I ask about Diana's injury. After all, I had understood. In their hearts, there was no longer any room for me. The day I was set to depart was also the day Diana was discharged from the hospital. Ariana rarely made a phone call home. Her voice still a little cold, but less tense. Today Diana is discharged. Why don't you cook a few dishes for lunch? Let's celebrate a little, as a whole family. I was stunned. The 2 words, whole family, touched the deepest part of my heart. In the previous life, during the 20 years she was away from home, she only returned twice, each time only staying for a few hours before leaving again. In my whole life, I never had one complete reunion meal. Even when I was dying, my final wish could not be fulfilled. This time, I agreed. Let this meal be the end of the previous life, and the beginning of this life. I tidied my luggage, cooked a fully prepared meal, and sat waiting for the mother and daughter to return. The clock on the wall ticked, from 11:30 in the morning, waiting until 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Their figures were still nowhere to be seen. A sudden premonition of something bad arose in my heart. Sure enough, immediately after, the phone rang. Ariana's voice sounded through the receiver, this time with a rare hint of guilt. Sergio has worked hard taking care of Diana these past few days, so I invited him to a restaurant to thank him. We probably won't be back for lunch. There was a moment of silence on the other end. Then she hesitantly added, or, why don't you come too? The child's voice came through from the side, full of dissatisfaction. Mom, why do you have to call Dad? I don't want to see him. This meal is what I ordered for Uncle Sergio. I didn't feel sad, just smiled faintly. No, I won't come. The 2 of you go ahead and eat. I paused for a moment, and finally said very slowly, Ariana, Diana, goodbye. After speaking, I hung up. Outside the window, the sound of a car horn slowly echoed, signaling that it was time for me to leave. I retrieved the suitcase from the bedroom, placed the divorce paper under the untouched plate of food, and finally looked around the house. The place where my 2 lives, combined, had spent nearly 40 years of connection. I knew that from now on, I would never return here. When the specialized vehicle carried me away from the complex, the entire building slowly receded in the rearview mirror. From now on, I would be stationed in the present world, while Ariana and her daughter would be deployed in the Caribbean. One person in the south, one person in the north. We would never meet again. I, David, will fly in the blue sky from now on, dedicating the rest of my life to the aviation career of the motherland. On the other side, after I hung up the phone, Ariana subtly frowned, a strange feeling rising in her heart. I had never actively hung up on her. What did my final goodbye mean, after all? She thought that today she and her daughter only went to thank Sergio, accepting his invitation to dine at the restaurant. At most, they would be back late in the afternoon. Why did my words sound as if we were about to leave forever? Ariana's eyelids twitched slightly, a feeling of confusion and fear rising in her heart, as if something was leaving her forever. Mom, hurry up and order. We must order all the dishes Uncle Sergio likes. Her daughter Diana's voice startled her awake. She looked down at the menu in her hand. The dishes were colorful and appealing. Yet in her eyes, they suddenly became bland and tasteless. She fundamentally disliked eating out. Only the food I cooked suited her taste. She initially thought it was just a thank you meal for Sergio, and it wouldn't hurt to just eat a quick meal. But an image of the meal I cooked suddenly flashed in her mind. These past few days, she had been busy taking care of her child at the hospital, and hadn't been home to eat in a few days. And now she suddenly missed that flavor. Ariana closed the menu, her voice soft with a hint of apology. Sergio, Diana and I will head back for lunch. Can I invite you for another meal another day? Sergio, who was playing with Diana, was stunned when he heard this. The smile on his face gradually faded, with a slight hint of grievance. Ariana, didn't you say you would eat with me? Did David's phone call make you change your mind? Diana immediately grabbed her mother's hand, her small face full of complaint. Mom, I don't want to go home. I want to eat with Uncle Sergio. He worked so hard taking care of me these past few days. He had to go to work, and still came to the hospital to visit me. It would be rude if we broke our promise. Ariana began to waver. With Diana, she shouldn't break a promise. When her eyes met Sergio's slightly red eyes, she finally softened, calling the waiter to reorder the dishes from the start. Sergio then smiled again. After the meal, Ariana and Diana, as usual, walked him all the way back to his house. Before entering the door, Sergio gently rubbed the wound on the little girl's forehead. Diana, don't let the wound get wet when you get home. Understand? Remember to use iodine alcohol to sterilize it every day. The little girl hugged his arm, her voice petulant. I know, Uncle Sergio. I know you love me the most. Sergio lightly squeezed the girl's cheek, then looked worriedly towards Ariana. Ariana, was David really angry today? Or should I go back with you to explain to him? Ariana gently shook her head, and said softly, You go home and rest. I've already troubled you enough these past few days. I will handle things with David myself. After all, he was the one who caused Diana's injury, which forced you to work hard taking care of her. He should be the one thanking you. Sergio looked embarrassed, pursing his lips and smiling. Ariana, you are too kind. Next month we're going to the Caribbean. There, you and I will probably be the closest people. Ariana paused, feeling the sentence was slightly odd. But then she thought, they really only knew each other in the Caribbean. So his words weren't wrong. After saying goodbye to him, Ariana led Diana back to the military compound. The further they walked, the more downcast the child became, her steps also slowing down. Ariana thought the child was still sulking because of her injury, so she didn't pay much attention. Children, they get angry and then forget. Besides, I am her biological father. She won't stay angry at me for long. She was initially angry at me for not watching the child carefully, and for being slow to take her to the hospital. But thinking about it, she told herself, David is her father. How could he stand by and watch his child bleed? Perhaps he was just panicked at the time, which made him freeze. Suddenly Diana stopped, refusing to walk further, bowing her head and speaking softly, her voice mournful. Mom, why haven't you and Dad gotten a divorce yet? I want to live with Uncle Sergio. Ariana was startled, and sternly sat down opposite her daughter. Diana, who told you the word, divorce? The child swallowed, intimidated by her mother's serious demeanor. taking a few steps back, stammering. It was Dad who said it. The flame of anger in Ariana's heart, which had subsided for a few days, flared up violently again. As a husband and father, I would talk about divorce in front of a small child. David, what exactly are you thinking? She tried to suppress her anger, not wanting to yell in front of the child. Diana, Mom and Dad will not get a divorce. The child's eyes widened in confusion. Why, Mom? But you and Uncle Sergio are very happy together. And next month, aren't we going to leave here? Leaving Dad alone in the compound? Ariana took a deep breath, unsure how to explain to her daughter. Sergio was the brother of an old comrade, so her showing him more care and attention was understandable. In the Southwest Military Region complex, Ariana only knew Sergio. Furthermore, both of them were doctors. If taken to the island, it would surely be a great help to the border soldiers. Ariana said softly. Actually, Mom really wanted to take Dad and you along, so the three of us could be together as a family. But there's only one spot for accompanying personnel. After much consideration, Mom had to give it to Sergio. Once I'm settled there, I will come back to pick up Dad. But such matters were too complicated for a 6-year-old child. Finally, Ariana swallowed all the words she intended to say, only seriously bending down to instruct her daughter. Adult matters, you don't need to know. You just need to remember. Your father is forever David. And Mom's husband can only be him. Diana's small face wrinkled. She mumbled. But Mom clearly signed the divorce paper. Dad said. Once it's signed, Mom and Dad will be divorced. That's enough. Diana, don't talk anymore. Ariana cut her off, her voice slightly sharp. Words like that must absolutely not be spoken in front of Dad. She thought the child was just sulking, believing she still wanted her mother to be with Sergio. So she didn't want to hear more, and led the child straight home. When she pushed the door open and stepped in, Ariana still expected me to be as usual, with cooked food and soup ready, sitting and waiting for the mother and daughter to return. However, when she saw the scene inside the house, she paused for a moment. The table indeed had plenty of food, but a familiar figure was missing next to the table. The food and soup were ice cold, the smell of food quiet in the chilly room. She searched all over the house, but couldn't find me anywhere. Diana tugged at her mother's sleeve, her voice trembling. Mom, where is Dad? Ariana didn't know where I went either. Since getting married and having a child, I had stayed home to care for Diana, not working. So besides the compound, I truly had nowhere else to go. She sat down, trying to remember where I could have gone, unconsciously looking around the room. When she suddenly realized some items were missing, Ariana immediately ran into the bedroom, opening the wardrobe. Just as she feared, all my clothes were gone. An unbelievable thought flashed through her mind. I had left home and run away. Diana quietly asked, her voice shaking. Mom, where did Dad go? After the initial panic passed, what remained in Ariana's heart was only sadness mixed with exhaustion. Wasn't it just because I didn't come home for lunch today? She told herself. Did I need to make such a big deal out of it that I would run away from home? She hadn't even had a chance to blame me for talking about divorce in front of the child. Yet I gave her another shock. Ariana quickly reassured her daughter. It's okay, Dad will be back in a few days. Diana's stomach rumbled. Since childhood, she was a picky eater, disliking outside food, and today at the restaurant she had only reluctantly eaten a few bites. Mainly because her mother had to entertain Sergio. Now the child was starving. Looking at the table full of attractive savory and sweet dishes, she swallowed. Mom, I'm hungry. Ariana looked at the cold food and soup, and had to put it up to reheat. As she lifted the plate, a small notebook fell out, sliding into the gap between the table and the wall, but she didn't notice. After the mother and daughter finished eating, Ariana helped apply medicine to the wound on her daughter's forehead, then coaxed her to sleep. Diana took her mother's hand and whispered, Mom, Dad tells me a story every day before bed. I can't sleep without Dad telling a story. Having no other choice, Ariana picked up a storybook and sat by the bed reading to her daughter. She didn't know how long passed until the child's small hand went limp, and she finally sighed in relief. Confirming the child was sound asleep, Ariana gently tucked her in again. She was just about to fall asleep when she felt her throat dry and an indescribable emptiness rising in her heart. Until now, everything in the house, from meals, sleep, to even telling bedtime stories to the child, was taken care of by me. Only now did she realize her daughter needed to be told stories for so long before falling asleep. Not long after, exhaustion set in, and Ariana drifted off to sleep. The next morning, she woke up early, imitating me to cook breakfast for her daughter. When she went to wake Diana up, as soon as she opened the door, she froze. The blanket had been kicked onto the floor, and the child's face was flushed red. Ariana panicked. Touching her daughter's forehead, it was terribly hot. She dared not hesitate, quickly carrying the child and running straight to the medical station. On the way, she continuously called her daughter's name, but Diana was only semi-conscious, fretfully whimpering, "Dad, Dad." Seeing her child in such pain, Ariana was both afraid and self-reproachful, her steps becoming more and more hurried. Upon arrival, the doctor took her temperature, nearly $40 carat, circ, text, C, dollar. After administering an IV drip, he finally sighed. "What kind of parents are you? It's obvious the child caught a cold overnight. Don't you know that a high fever can cause brain damage?" He continued to instruct. "The weather has been changing erratically lately. Children are still young. You must wake up frequently to cover them with a blanket. You cannot be negligent." Hearing this, Ariana looked at her weak child lying on the bed, her heart tightening. Until now, with me at home, Diana rarely got sick. She never knew that. Her daughter often kicked off the blanket at night, and I always had to wake up to cover her. So that was it. Her child's health was thanks to my silent, laborious nights, and I never complained a word. Thinking of this, a deep sense of regret arose in Ariana's heart. She seemed to be starting to understand why I had left home. I had tried so hard for this family, yet she and her daughter took it for granted, even leaving me behind in the compound, taking Sergio and our daughter all the way to the Caribbean. Thinking of that, Ariana's initial decision began to waver. Did she really have to give that military medical spot to Sergio? "Dad, I want Dad." Diana's weak voice interrupted Ariana's train of thought. She quickly grasped her daughter's small hand, gently comforting her. "Don't worry, Dad will be back soon." Although Diana was normally very close to Sergio, whenever she had a nightmare or felt unwell, it was always me who was by her side comforting and caring for her. This was an unconscious habit she had formed long ago. When she felt unwell, she always wanted me to be there. Diana opened her eyes, looked around, only seeing Ariana's figure, and began to whimper, tears streaming down. "Mom, I want the porridge Dad makes. Mom, call Dad to come back." Hearing her child's words, Ariana's heart ached. The child missed her father too. But not knowing where I was, she could only comfort her first. "Be good, Diana, Dad had to go for work. But when you get better, Dad will come back. You have to eat well to welcome Dad back, okay?" Diana stopped crying and nodded vigorously. When he learned his daughter was hospitalized, Sergio also rushed over. Seeing Diana looking weak, he was startled. "Ariana, how did Diana get sick? Is it because David was angry yesterday and didn't take good care of her?" Ariana frowned, feeling displeased with the comment. "It has nothing to do with David. David angrily left yesterday. It was because I didn't cover Diana properly that she caught a cold." Sergio went silent, feeling a little astonished. He left on his own. "It's a good thing I understood the situation, so I didn't cause an incident." He looked at Ariana, his eyes showing a hint of affection. Stuttering, "Ariana, did David get angry because of me? I'm so sorry to both of you." Ariana no longer had the presence of mind to talk much, only thinking to herself, when would David be able to return? She also didn't pay attention to Sergio's call. "It has nothing to do with you. It was Diana and I who upset him. When David's anger subsides, we will apologize to him." Sergio's face darkened, secretly calculating. That hateful David finally left. It took so long for this to happen. It's just a pity the little brat didn't fall to her death last time. She's so lucky to be alive. When Ariana and I go to the island, I will find a way to make little Diana disappear. In the future, Ariana will definitely bear my child. Ariana kicked the door open, her eyes blazing as she looked directly at the smug man. Are you truly such a cruel person? Sergio was talking to a colleague, and was completely surprised by Ariana's sudden appearance, his face turning pale with fear. Trying to explain. Ariana, you misheard me. I was just joking. How could I do such a thing? But Diana, her eyes full of tears, her face full of anger, pointed straight at him. Last time, if you hadn't pulled me away from Dad, I wouldn't have fallen and gotten hurt. I was even worried Mom would scold you, but I didn't know you did it on purpose. You are a bad person. Although Diana's sympathy now leaned towards me, she still thought Sergio was good to her, never expecting it was all a fake facade. Ariana clenched her hand into a powerful fist, gritting her teeth. So it was you who hurt Diana. Sergio, I followed your sister's request to take care of my child. Yet you want to harm my daughter and drive my husband away. Sergio panicked, looking around for someone to help him. But his colleagues had all retreated, leaving only the three of them. The mother and daughter in front of him had heard the entire truth. Sergio trembled, stammering his defense. Ariana, I just love you too much. I want to be your husband. As for Diana, I made one mistake. I will definitely make it up to her later. Please forgive me this time. Ariana let out a cold laugh from her throat, grabbing his neck with one hand, saying, Forgive you? And the pain my daughter and my husband had to endure. Who will bear it for them? Her hand squeezed harder. Sergio strained to push Ariana's arm away, trying to break free, when his eyes glazed over. Ariana, full of contempt, threw him aside. Stand there and dream of being the man of the house. Sergio clutched his neck, coughing violently, hastily begging. Ariana, don't. I promise I will take care of Diana as your sister asked. Looking at him crying, Ariana finally only glanced at him, her eyes full of disdain. I don't owe your sister any promise. But I won't let you hurt my husband and daughter. Furthermore, if your sister knew you did this, I'm sure she'd rather not have you. Finished speaking, Ariana picked up Diana and strode forcefully out of the room. She only wanted to immediately find my location, not giving up even if she had to use her authority as head of the medical team. After settling Diana, she planned to mobilize the entire medical corps to look for me. The signature, Ariana, was clearly written on the paper. Diana looked up, tears welling up in her eyes, and asked her mother, Mom, I heard that you and Dad are divorced. Is Dad still coming back? Ariana was suddenly panic-stricken. She clearly had not divorced Diana's father. Yet her daughter kept bringing up the matter. Diana, who told you that Mom and Dad are divorced? Diana's tears poured out, and she sobbed. About half a month ago, Dad held a piece of paper and said that Mom just needed to sign it, and the two of you would divorce. At that time, I wanted Mom to be with that bad uncle. So I gave the paper to Mom to sign. Diana's words were like a heavy hammer hitting Ariana's heart. The divorce paper had truly been signed. She remembered that she was busy handling work in the room at the time. Diana had thrust the paper into her hand to sign. She thought it was school paperwork requiring a parent's signature, so she didn't bother to read and just signed it. Who knew it was the divorce application? That meant that, just by signing, she had easily obtained the divorce certificate. And the past few days of David's disappearance wasn't a result of an argument causing him to run away, but that he had made a resolute decision to leave this family, abandoning her and Diana. Diana looked at her mother with a confused, worried gaze. Mom, I know I made a mistake. I don't want Dad to go. Can Mom find Dad and bring him back? Ariana looked at her daughter sobbing. Her heart was tormented beyond measure. If not for the distance between her and Sergio being inappropriate, her daughter wouldn't have been deceived by him and grown close to him. David wouldn't have left in despair. It was all Ariana's fault. But there was still a small glimmer of hope in her heart. Her father hadn't seen the divorce paper. He hadn't truly decided to divorce. It was just in a moment of anger. She quickly comforted her daughter. Diana, don't worry, Dad will come back to us. As she spoke, Ariana's eyes inadvertently caught a corner of the wall. She leaned over, carefully picking up a hidden object. Only now did she see clearly. It was a divorce certificate. She sighed. It turned out that on the very day she left, David had gone to the marriage registration office and received the divorce certificate. He had truly left this family. Ariana immediately hugged Diana. Even when she was injured on previous missions, she had never shed a single tear. But at this moment, her voice was hoarse, choked with emotion. Diana, we will find Dad together, and apologize to him. After confirming her daughter was stable, she held Diana and knocked on her close friend's door. Faced with the mother and daughter, Maria was extremely frightened. Ariana, what happened? Maria asked, her voice anxious. Ariana's voice was hoarse. My husband had an argument recently and ran away from home. Can you help me find out where he went? Sergio frowned, looking at her in surprise. David was selected as a pilot half a month ago, and is currently attending military training. You're his wife, don't you know? These words were like thunder in the sky, striking the mother and daughter's ears. Diana immediately burst into tears. Dad doesn't want to be with me anymore? I want to see Dad. Ariana remained silent for a long time, then said gently, so when will Dad be back? Next month my mother and I will go to the Caribbean. The superiors must have realized. The couple surely had a big conflict. Maria sighed heavily. Once a pilot is selected, they will frequently be on assignment far away. David probably won't be coming back. 3 years later, in the Caribbean, I had just stepped down from the helicopter. A small boy hugged my legs. Dad, I didn't cry on the plane. I was very brave. Will Dad reward me? I hugged the boy, dotingly. All right, my brave son. What do you want Dad to reward you with? The boy pretended to think, his eyes shining. I don't want to make Dad tired. I just want Dad to cook my favorite sweet and sour pork ribs. I smiled at the boy's cleverness, remembering that over the years the boy really loved my cooking. His physique improved quickly, so I had prepared food with less oil and salt to ensure his health. I stroked the boy's hair. Tonight Dad will cook your favorite sweet and sour pork ribs. The boy was delighted, his hand clutching the imaginary dish. Dad is the best. Seeing the child happy, I also smiled. The fatigue from the long 3-hour flight completely vanished. A familiar female voice sounded next to me. If you spoil him like that, when will he regain a normal weight? I looked at Michael's helpless face and smiled. Just this once, it's okay. Michael sighed, teasing. See, you can't refuse him either. Just like he can't stop his mother. Both of them talked as they walked into the dormitory area, preparing to check the kitchen utensils before going grocery shopping. After finishing the packing, and taking advantage of the base still being open, I took Michael out to buy pork ribs, then went to the dormitory to cook. Not long after, the smell of sweet and sour pork ribs filled the room. Mateo took a deep breath, clapping excitedly. I finally get to eat sweet and sour pork ribs. Michael looked at Mateo, only smiling wistfully. It seemed that the recent restrictive diet had made the child crave it for too long, which was why he was so excited now. Her eyes glanced at me, busy in the kitchen, when I brought the plate of sweet and sour pork ribs to the table. Mateo immediately pulled up a chair and sat obediently, waiting for mealtime. I scooped a full bowl of rice for him, placing it in front of him. Eat up, you can eat as much as you want today. But starting tomorrow, you can't eat so freely anymore. He happily nodded. It's okay, Dad. Watching Mateo eat with gusto, Michael also smiled. She glanced at me, a hint of worry in her look. I understood what she was concerned about. Michael knew Ariana and Diana were in the Caribbean, and was worried we would meet. But to me, Ariana and my daughter were the past. The hurts they caused had also faded. Don't worry, I said. If we meet them, it's fine. We are only here in the Caribbean for training. We will return to the capital next month. Furthermore, the Caribbean defense line is so long. It's not certain that this is where Ariana is stationed. But life is always full of coincidences. And surprises always happen. After eating, Michael and I took Mateo for a walk around the island. The boy had only lived on the mainland since birth. This was the first time he had seen the sea, and he was extremely excited. He ran and jumped on the gravel path, my eyes following him closely. Slow down, watch your feet, don't trip. As soon as I finished speaking, Mateo slipped and fell forward. I was startled, quickly reaching out to embrace the child. but the slip was too strong for me to react in time. I fell to the ground with Matteo in my arms, scraping my hand. Michael quickly helped us up. "Oh dear, where did you fall?" Matteo saw that I was injured protecting him, and blamed himself. "Dad, it's all my fault. I shouldn't have run. If not, Dad wouldn't be hurt." I looked at the mother and son. Their anxious expressions identical, my heart filled with compassion. The wound on my hand was only a superficial scrape, but it was bleeding quite a bit. I was just about to reassure them, when I heard two familiar voices behind me. "Oh my God, it's Dad." Ariana and Diana appeared. I didn't expect them to be here, seeing me after 3 years of separation. Diana was still young and couldn't restrain herself. Her eyes red, she rushed forward to hug me. "Dad, I missed you so much." I sighed inwardly, not expecting such a coincidence. This island was exactly where Ariana was stationed. Seeing Diana about to rush into my arms, I quickly pulled Matteo aside, avoiding letting her see the child. Diana looked at me, her eyes hurt. "Dad, why are you avoiding me? You haven't seen me for 3 years. Don't you miss me?" I didn't want Matteo to know about the adult's problems. So I knelt down and said to him, "Matteo, Dad has something to take care of. You and Mom go back first." The boy looked at the wound on my hand but nodded obediently. Michael didn't say anything either, picking up the child, looking deeply into my eyes and Ariana's. "I'll wait for you to come back." When they left, Diana couldn't help but ask, "Dad, why did that child call you Dad?" I calmly replied, "Because he is my son. It's natural for him to call me Dad." Diana's eyes widened, tears about to fall. The little girl didn't understand. She was clearly Dad's daughter. Why did Dad have another child next to him? Ariana looked complex and said, "David, that child looks about 5 years old. You certainly aren't his biological father." I was silent for a moment, confirming in my heart, "Yes, I am not Matteo's biological father." 3 years ago, when I finished my mission in Sati, I heard the heartbreaking cries of a child from the office. Perhaps paternal instinct guided me. I went there and saw Michael frantically comforting a baby. It was Matteo. Seeing the boy crying almost to the point of passing out, I took the child into my arms, patiently soothing him. Not long after, Matteo stopped crying and fell asleep. Through Michael, I learned that Matteo's parents had sacrificed their lives, and he was now being raised by the military district. She had never cared for a child much, so she was often awkward. Perhaps because we had similar circumstances. I felt sorry for Matteo, and after every training session, I would go to take care of him. Gradually, Matteo regarded me as his father, and Michael as his mother. Although he is not my biological child, I only have this boy in my heart. Diana immediately burst into tears. "Dad, I'm your daughter too. How can you not acknowledge me?" Ariana hugged Diana, her expression pained. "David, 3 years ago, we misjudged people. Hurting you was my fault. But you cannot deny that Diana is your child. She and I have been looking for you for 3 years. Diana was always hoping you would appear." I smiled faintly, full of bitterness. My daughter cannot hide her father. Yet she let someone else be her father on Parents' Day. Ariana and Diana were stunned, not expecting I knew about that. She paled and explained. Diana was deceived by Sergio. She was young and didn't understand anything. I looked at Ariana coldly. "Then why didn't you tell me? And lied that you had a mission that day?" Ariana could only stammer in repetition. I was also tricked by the image he created. He said he had never been a father and wanted to try. "Ariana, no matter how much you say, you cannot erase the previous damage. This time, I am only here for a mission. I will leave next month. Let's pretend we never met." Ariana looked at me in disbelief. "You still want to abandon me and our child? How can you leave your family of 2? I laughed coldly. "Abandonment? In truth, I was never in your hearts. You forced me to leave, so Sergio could take my place, which is fine. You both like him anyway. Him being the husband in this family is exactly what you wanted." Ariana hastily explained. "Previously, I cared for Sergio only because he was my best friend's deceased brother. Before she passed away, she asked me to take care of Sergio." I nodded slightly, as if accepting what she had just said. Ariana looked at me, her voice trembling. "I have imprisoned him. He conspired to ruin a military marriage and attempted murder. He will never be released in this lifetime. I swear, I never had any other feelings for him. I only acted upon the request before his sister passed away. Hearing this, I felt like I understood everything. It turned out there was such a complicated connection between Ariana and Sergio. Ariana thought I had softened, so she continued. David, Diana and I have realized our mistakes. Please come back. If you still want to be a pilot, I will ask to be transferred back with you. We will start over, I promise. Her hopeful eyes, and Diana's expectant gaze, tightened my heart. But I only shook my head, extinguishing the last spark of hope. I have let go. To me, the two of you are just familiar strangers. I don't want to meet again. With that, I turned and walked away, leaving only two lonely figures standing frozen in the sea breeze. Diana tugged at her mother's arm, her voice choked. Mom, does Dad really not need me anymore? Ariana parted her lips, wanting to say, Dad won't abandon you. But her throat felt blocked by a stone, unable to utter a single sound. To avoid running into the mother and daughter again, I confined myself to two places: the dormitory and the training ground. Although during training, I occasionally felt two intense gazes following me, I pretended not to notice. Until the day of the official drill. I wore my blue military uniform, left hand holding my pilot's helmet, and stepped solemnly out of the dormitory. This time it was not just a drill, but also an examination of the results of 3 years of hard work. I had to do my best. As soon as I descended the stairs, I saw Ariana and her daughter waiting on the side. I looked straight ahead, intending to walk past, but she called softly, David, I'm sorry. Ariana's lips curved into a bitter smile, her voice trembling. Last night, I had a dream. In the dream, I took Sergio to the Caribbean as planned, while you and our daughter stayed at the compound. But I didn't keep my promise to pick you up, leaving you tired and alone. Even when I received the commendation, I didn't mention your name, only thanking Sergio. Speaking of this, her eyes were red. Initially, she didn't believe in the previous life. But after that dream, coupled with my departure, she understood. Perhaps I also had the same dream, which was why I decided to divorce to change our fate. Meeting again today, she wanted to admit her mistake so I would forgive her, not wanting to be separated anymore. But waking up this morning, the memory of my unwilling eyes before I died haunted her, along with a sharp pain in her heart. She realized how much she and our daughter had truly hurt me. I also hadn't expected Ariana to know about the previous life. But it was too late. In this life, I had already changed my destiny myself. And I didn't need her belated regret anymore. Since you know, don't drag this out. In my eyes, the two of you are the ones who killed me. I cannot forget. Ariana's face turned pale, unable to refute. Diana was young, but after her mother's words, the little girl also understood that she had committed an unforgivable mistake. She bowed her head, eyes red, not daring to look at me. It was almost time for assembly. I didn't look at the mother and daughter again, walking past and leaving. At the drill site, I climbed into the cockpit, fastened my seatbelt, and put on my pilot's helmet. Aircraft number 256 ready. Following the commander's order, hundreds of fighter jets soared into the sky, leaving long white trails. From a distance, Ariana held Diana's hand, watching. The little girl looked up, her eyes fixed on the shadow of the fighter jet, and quietly asked, Mom, after this drill, will Dad leave? Ariana stroked her daughter's head. Dad is pursuing his dream. We can't hold him back anymore. The next day, our group of pilots left the Caribbean to return. Ariana and her daughter didn't come to see us off. Only standing far away watching the fighter jet I was piloting fly away, engraving the call sign on the aircraft's body into their hearts. Many years later, Ariana graduated from university and left the island. Ariana remained committed to the maritime defense line. Only, whenever she heard the sound of a fighter jet cutting through the wind, she would unconsciously look up, hoping to see that number once again. Because she knew that was probably the closest moment in this life between her and me.